Well, it's a hugely exciting time in Australian harness racing. Big races everywhere over the next 6 weeks or so. And importantly, the yearling sales coming up. Australian Gold sales in Melbourne on Sunday. On the 20th of February, the new player, Nutrien, has its sale up in Sydney. Now, the significance of that is these sales are coming at a time, and the feature racing, when we're off the back of a magnificent set of results on 2021. And that's off the back of some key strategic changes from Harness Racing Australia. Andrew Kelly, long-winded intro, but the bottom line is the sport finished 2021 with a bang.
And we couldn't have been happier, Adam. And, as you've just said there, it really sets it up nicely for 2022. And people should head into those sales, including the APG sales that will follow the Miracle Mile, full of positive vibes about what they can find at the sales and what the future holds for harness racing. Because if we look at 2021, although only one snapshot, some really hard work by HRA, the HRA members, and the way that the industry has been able to embrace those changes really augurs well for our future as an industry. As we've spoke many times, some of these changes that have taken place, whether it be the handicapping system, which is in all states other than WA at the moment, the change in the racing season to a calendar year, are all things that are difficult, probably difficult for a lot of people to understand when you first start talking about them. But what we've really been about for the last 4 or 5 years is looking at the way in which we can get the maximum out of our foal crop. Really looking at not just the number of foals that have been bred each year, well, that's an important ingredient, being able to maximise those horses that are born, getting them to the track, and then maximising their careers on the racetrack. And 2021 is the first chance that we can really look back on that now, because we had that small 4-month window where we had to transition from a normal season, let's call it, or the traditional season, to the new season. So it's impossible to look back on the last 12 months. Anyone who tries to look at these statistics that are on the website and understand, a full 12-month to a 12-month, it's never going to work, because there were feature races that were held over, due to COVID to late in 2020. Prize money was adjusted accordingly, etc. So now we can look back to that first full year of racing prior to 2021. And we can see what has actually occurred. And by any measure, whichever way you look at it, it's just been some fantastic results there.
Yes, these are the key things, aren't they? Number of starters up. You've run more races. The average prize money per starter is up. We'll get into a lot more details soon, but those 3 factors alone just make the sport more attractive.
Well, that's right. But we don't run the races, so we obviously take our hat off, and we are absolutely buoyed by the way in which the state controlling bodies, the handicappers, have been able to work the new handicapping system and program races for these outcomes. But also it takes the industry to embrace them. And we can just take a small snapshot of the 3-year-olds, where there had been a lot of feedback that 3-year-olds were struggling. There just wasn't enough races for them. They were being put out in the paddock early. Well, clearly these statistics are highlighting the fact that's not the case. And the 2-year-olds that, you can make the argument that we've got more racing opportunities for them because they get a full year of racing now. Well, that's what we were trying to do. So we were trying to give a better career for all of the horses that are born into our industry. And if we look back for as long as statistics have been taken, only 50% of the foal crop born, now I'm talking about Australian breds here, have got themselves to the races. So it's a flip of the coin when you're breeding a horse as to whether or not it gets to the track. This year alone, we're at 56% in the first year of horses racing careers. Normally it takes until the 6-year-old crop before we hit the peak of 50%. So this is great news, because that's more horses to the races earlier in their careers. All of the research shows that the earlier a horse starts racing, the longer and more successful career it will have. But that is more races every week, the opportunity to run more race meetings, and more horses racing in those races. And you mentioned before, the average number of starts per horse is up at 13.3%. This is unheard of in in an industry that has a zero tolerance to drugs as we have.
Yeah, the figures are terrific. The overarching element to this is we know the importance of animal welfare in any racing code right around the world. And this plays directly to that, doesn't it? More horses getting to the races, more opportunities under the new rating system for horses to race longer.
And that was the idea. Race amongst in a competitive environment amongst horses of a sort of equal grade, or as best as we can provide for that with the information that we've got and the way that we've built the system. But further than that, giving them more opportunities, not getting to their markets quickly. And what we're starting to see now is, and there's probably other reasons for this, but suddenly there's not as many mares heading to the US. There's more horses racing for longer in a competitive environment. The distance from fifth to first is reducing all the time. The number of odds-on favourites has reduced significantly. So we know we've got more competitive racing. We know that brings about better returns to the industry. But the welfare issue is exactly a highlight of these numbers. The horses are bred for a purpose, and we're now able to champion the fact that we're heading in the right direction with the utilisation of the foal crop. It's such a big thing for those outside of the industry who are looking at us in a different manner than we look at ourselves. And that social licence to operate is always front of mind.
Yeah, no, so very true. Couple of other things to touch on, and all the details are going to be there on harness.org, a full explanation, all the breakdown of the statistics. So, but a couple of key things to close out on. The boom around Ausbreds. Now, this is your charter, really, isn't it, at HRA? You've got to encourage the Ausbred element to it, but the stats around the Ausbred 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds are tremendous.
Yeah, that's right. So the percentage of the foal crop that are getting the races is one great element, but the number of winners or the percentage of winners is another. But the number of winners is highlighting the fact that the money is also being spread far and wide, probably more than it has done previously. And people will be able to see on the website that these are some of the best figures in 20 years in some instances, and in others since 2013-14. So we're looking at a generational change here, or shift, in terms of what we've been able to achieve. And by the way, I just want to make it absolutely clear that we can set a framework here at Harness Racing Australia, only a small team, as you know. The way in which it's then implemented and the way that it's embraced is more important in many respects, because if it's not, then the best laid plans get off the rails pretty quick.
No doubt about it. The trotters too, such an important part of it, and the growth of Australian harness racing and the internationalisation of Australian harness racing, and the trotters figures were terrific in 2021 as well.
Yeah, how about that? So 200 more races and over $16 million in prize money in the first sort of 12-month period that we've been able to look back on. Outstanding. But as you said before, Ausbred heading into the sales, it's a great opportunity for people to be buying with great confidence. And in the weeks and months ahead, with the thought processes going on in relation to what the calendar looks like, what race programming looks like, what new races might be added to the calendar over time. It's a great opportunity, and Ausbred is clearly where we're aiming.
Well, you know how long I've been in the game. There's no doubt the buzz is back in the trots. Great time to have the sales. What a tremendous weekend we've got coming up with the big double header at Melton. Then off the back of that, we roll into a tremendous month, really, of racing up there in New South Wales, with all the sales intermingled amongst them. Andrew, thanks for wandering back over the figures of last year. Well done to you and the team. I think the well done goes to the broader industry. As you said, embracing it is the key to success. And I truly believe we've only just started that process now. So thanks for your time. And just a reminder, you can check all of the figures in detail from last year on harness.org.au. Catch up again soon, Andrew.
Yeah, look forward to it. All the best, Adam. Thank you.